The following program is rated TV MAL. It contains strong language and is intended only for mature audiences.
What is going on, everybody? It is finally Friday. I'm excited. I don't know if you guys can see, but I can see and I can tell. I'm ready to do some stuff and have some conversation tonight. But I'm your host, the Appalachian American. With me, as always, my left-hand man, the author himself, David Applegate.
G'day, friends and fans. Welcome to another War Room. And really, it's so exciting to see how many people are self-deporting, right?
Woohoo! Hey, we got a knight from the round table. His name's Anime Knight 1992.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Friday and it's payday.
Woo! Best day of the week.
Oh, it's not working. Yay! It works. All right. Hey,
I think I put too many in there.
Okay, last but not least, we
It's
got Dad of the channel, Shannon Bradley.
Hey, hey, happy Solstice Day, everybody! And I don't really understand what's the big deal about Sabrina Carpenter's album cover. Okay.
Who?
Who?
Don't worry.
Who's Sabrina Carpenter?
I think it's her name. I'll put the link in the chat.
Throw the link in the chat. Hey, we got 53 people watching right out of the gate because I hit a whole bunch of trending topics. So
Nice.
We are here to talk about some current events. It's going to be a wild night because we've got all kinds of stuff. Earthquakes, all kinds of stuff that we don't like to say on YouTube because they're not fun. But we're going to talk about stuff. So if you're watching on X, you're on the right place. And we're gonna have some good conversation tonight. We got all kinds of stuff to talk about. So get ready. Lape's got chickens he's got to deal with here in a few minutes. But other than that,
Hey, the new ones are finally starting laying eggs. We got a white egg. We got
man,
dark
mine
green,
still haven't been
olive
laying
green.
eggs. Mine still haven't been laying eggs. Dag nabbit. I got them about a month ago, and they still ain't laying eggs.
And you got them older, right?
Mm-hmm.
Were they 20 weeks old yet?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
I was told they were egg laying age.
Oh, and how long have you had them?
A month.
You got enough? You got enough calcium in their diet?
I don't know. There are no winners in the Sabrina Carpenter debate. On social media, nuance is the enemy, but it doesn't have to be.
Just look at the picture. I didn't read the damn article.
Well, what's about it?
Exactly. So the feminists are all upset because she's on her knees in front of a man, and then some people are thinking that she's over sexualizing for profits. So
Here's the screen. It's nothing that we can't show.
As
It's
Kelly
not that bad.
McEnany said the other day, the left just sit there waiting for you to do something so they can be outraged. But this is why they do nothing themselves, because they will be judged by the same standard.
Exactly.
well, now and then if you try to hold them to a standard, sometimes quite often the liberals.
The only
try to
standard
hold
they
to a
have is
standard.
hypocrisy. Come on.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, it's like the liberals. Yeah. If you hold them to a standard, some of them anyway. But yeah, that's why
Well,
there's a
a lot of
distinction
them-
now between the left and liberals.
Yeah, the Liberals are actually starting to say, you know what? We better start becoming right-wing because they're going to judge us anyway.
Yeah. Well, some of the liberals are, right? A lot of them didn't move.
Yeah, some of them realize they're not left-wing.
And now they're like, well, I don't really like communism.
Yeah, they spend all this time pushing stuff they didn't know about.
Well, yeah, they found out communism isn't just free healthcare. They found out communism is North Korea.
Yeah, telling you what you can wear.
No,
Yeah.
what you can wear, what you can eat, when you can work, and if you stop working, they kill you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. But I'm disappointed yet again. Every day I wake up and there's no nukes have gone off. I'm disappointed in Alex Jones. It's been this way now for about 2.5 years. Every day it's like, oh my God, the bombs are going to fall tomorrow. So,
well, he's always said that.
Look, people keep saying there's no weapons of mass destruction and keep pointing to Iraq. Fine, Iraq, people are lying and still lying about Iraq. There were weapons, there was some mustard gas. It wasn't as big as people thought. The US dropped the big bomb on it and it was over in like 5 seconds. You know, one facility got blown to Kingdom Come first day of the war.
Yeah. Well, apparently a lot of Saddam's generals and people were hiding stuff from him.
And lying about the state of the weapons program. Yeah.
Yeah,
the weapons program was no.
Sure, I'll build you a laser.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So, all right, there's 10 shocking stories that the media buried today. Number 10. What?
I'm doing jazz hands for 10 shocking things.
Okay. The U.S. hostages were finally returned to New Jersey after 584 days in Hamas captivity, thanks to President Trump's I can't even diplomacy.
Diplomacy.
I cannot read right now. I'm sorry.
Trump's democracy.
Yeah. Massive crowds gathered in Eden, Alexandria with cheers and flags and tears. 21-year-old American-Israeli soldier stepped onto U.S. soil for the first time since his abduction in October 7th, 2023.
How's he an American-Israeli soldier? I don't understand that.
I don't know.
Choose a side,
Dual
buddy.
citizenship is allowed for some countries.
Trump administration launches major health initiative to support East Palestinian residents after dangerous chemical spill.
Oh, Palestine.
Yeah.
That's in Ohio.
Oh,
Ohio, yeah.
They don't know how to pronounce anything in Ohio. Okay.
nice.
It's just like it's like Versailles.
Yeah, but that chemical spill was what, like 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
That should have ended Biden's presidency.
Caroline,
Anywhere else would have.
Number 8, Caroline Leavitt reveals President Trump has introduced the U.S. Senate to remove all 1.4 million illegal aliens from Medicaid and to put America first.
Amen.
Yep.
Let's see. Number 7, 2 new studies estimate that we're seeing 5 to 10 self-deportations for every formal deportation. That comes to 500,000 to 1 million self-deportations in just 4 months.
Woohoo!
I said that at the start. Nearly a million.
Number 6. Pierce Morgan's guests say the craziest thing on air. Pierce Morgan, it's why my show is a lot more popular than yours because I'm better at it than you. George Galloway says my dad is bigger than your dad and my is bigger than your Are you ready to do that? That's kind of dumb.
Galloway's
but that's kind of funny.
Who's that? I don't even know who that
Galloway's
is.
the Trotskyite from England, okay? His opinions are worth
right, here, I'll show the
Arizona
clip.
Poop.
It's why my show's a lot more popular than yours, because I'm better at it than you. So stop the lectures about how good a journalist I am, or how good a broadcaster I am, or how good my team are. Because if you were so good, George, you'd have a lot more people following you, a lot more people watching you. But most people think you become a delusional loon.
Not become, always was. Okay?
Not my dad.
That's because Pierce wouldn't shut up.
The show massively dwarfs yours.
My dick is bigger than your dick. Are you really down to
Probably.
that, Pierce?
Probably.
Well, I've got some evidence that it isn't, but I'll not go there because
He sounds Scottish.
found
I'm not golden.
Yeah,
here.
but he lives in England, always lived in England.
I'm being very kind and calling it ignorance. I could
A lot
easily
of people
call
think
it
his accent is
lying.
faked.
I
but
could
he is.
easily call it willful ignorance.
Well, it's like saying
No,
I have a better show. It's what he's making a comparison. It's like, what is
in
this
the
what we
Iranian
come down to?
TV station,
Doesn't matter.
you
Yeah, to be
interviewed
clear,
Bennett and
I'm
didn't
not- to
even
be
mention
clear,
it to him.
To be clear,
Yeah, but Galloway is a raging loon, okay? He used to be pro-Israel, then he immediately sided with Hamas, okay? He'll never address the issue that in the early days of the Arab-Israeli war, he was pro-Israel. Now he's like super anti-Zionist, man. But I'm not
Well, that's
against
the current
people,
thing,
man.
right? How about I'm anti both sides. I'm ready.
Yeah, I
I'm
don't-
ready to turn the entire Middle East into glass because they just refuse to get along. Even when they start to get along, someone will pay the other side to go kick up, or the CIA will show up and just overthrow governments that are too pro-Western.
Yeah. All right,
Like
number
Iran has
5.
done it twice, and now they're calling for a third regime change. Like, look, the first 2 regime changes didn't go very well. The Shah was somewhat Western, but the one was it Mubarak? Who was before the Shah?
Mubarak, yeah.
yeah.
Mubarak was
He
the
was
first
very
guy
pro-Western.
put in. Yeah.
I mean, you see these memes all the time on Twitter and other places. It shows Tehran in 1975, Tehran, and women in mini skirts and they can go to college,
Yeah.
and then they always blame the Islamists, but which is okay, fair, but they wouldn't have risen to power without 3-letter agency from the U.S. and with MI6.
Yeah. Actually, I read somewhere that the MI6 were running an anti-Mubarak operation out of Cyprus. The CIA and the French were backing Ayatollah, and
Yeah.
India, Russia, and England were working together on another party altogether that we never even heard of before for a military coup. It was
Yep.
ridiculous.
Yeah. Hey, number 5 for today. The U.S. government skyrocketed the USAID budget for Brazil while Bolsonaro was there.
Bolsonaro.
Not to help Brazilians economically, but to flood the political opposition in Brazil with money to take him out.
Yeah, Biden said that at the beginning when Bolsonaro was kicked out of office. Biden cheered and said, "I helped do this."
Yeah.
Nice.
He's anti-globalist, so of course can't stay in power.
Number 4, Representative Luna demands Congress subpoena George Soros. Why hasn't he been done years ago?
He's in hiding. He's
How
actually in hiding.
I still want to know how he escaped Nuremberg.
He was. I think it
Money.
was his age.
Probably the money.
He was what? I thought he was he under 18?
He was. I think he was 14 when the war started, so he was just coming on 18 when the war ended.
But he made a lot of money turning Jews in.
Yeah.
Yeah, allegedly, he allegedly, get this. He claims he was only 6 weeks in England in a borrowed suit on his way to work, and he ran into a banker, and he got a job at HSBC.
Oh, that's amazing.
I'm sure it had nothing to do with the $1 million in bearer bonds of Nazi gold, right?
Yeah, of course.
Nice. Hey, let's see. Number 3, Trumpet Man closes Biden era loophole that lets China scoop up Americans' DNA. That's new.
That's the investigation into 23andMe selling private information undisclosed. Yeah.
Okay, I have heard about that before.
I thought they got hacked too. Didn't they also go
No,
back?
they claimed they were hacked, and it turns
Yeah.
out their servers were in China, and then it was the Chinese government accessing it
Oh,
under
Number
Chinese
2.
law.
Number 2, Arnold Schwarzenegger pledges he will always support RFK Jr. When I ran as a Republican and a Democrat like Bobby Kennedy, when I ran as a Republican and a Democrat like Bobby Kennedy helped me, I said to myself that I should always be there for him. He was a Democrat, and he called me during my campaign for governor and said to me, Arnold, I have someone that will help you with the environment, because he was an environmentalist. He sent me this guy, Terry Tamini, and Terry educated me about the environment. We set up environmental goals that we followed through, including reduce pollution by 25% in California. No other state was able to do that in America, and to create more renewable energy and millions of solar roofs and green building initiatives, and on and on. It was all because of Bobby Kennedy.
Had nothing to do with me married to his cousin, right?
True, probably.
Or the fact, now, he did pander very well. Arnold got in because he pandered very well to Californian politics.
Yeah.
But here's the fact. Reducing pollution in California is easy because it's one of the most polluted states.
Nice. Number 1, the world's highest IQ holder says he believes Jesus Christ is God, the way, the truth, and the life.
Amen.
And that because there was a big discussion about how that what's the guy's name in the wheelchair? Stephen Hawkins.
Stephen Hawking was a big atheist, but in reality, we all know
made that big
he was the
assumption
Satanist.
that there was going to be that there's nothing, there's no afterlife, and the guy with the highest IQ like ever documented is coming out saying that he believes different.
Now, here's the thing. Hawking allegedly had ALS, yet everybody but Hawking died young. And Hawking's condition never degenerated like others. He just suddenly died.
Yeah. There's a honorable mention for today. Japan releases bombshell vax versus unvaxxed data on 18 million people. Screw your freedom. Arnold shocks the view with pro-American rant that no one saw coming. Apparently he caused a big uproar the other day because I saw a whole bunch of footage about that. He went on the View and just kind of left them all baffled.
Well, apparently Trump has secured a peace treaty in Rwanda between Rwanda and Congo a short time ago.
Oh, nice.
They announced a wonderful treaty between Rwanda and Congo a short time ago, and Pakistan formally nominated him for the 2026 Nobel Peace Prize. He also was allegedly going to be nominated for the war between India and Pakistan, but then there was Serbia and Kosovo and other things, Egypt and Ethiopia. But anyway, all the Abraham's Peace Accord. Okay.
Well, apparently DARPA DARPA's shocking bioterror plot is revealed. The government's already picked a date, and it's coming sooner than you think. A disturbing 2024 biodefense report outlines a fictional bioterror attack scheduled for July 4th, 2025. The simulation has a chilling habit of becoming reality. Journalist Jan M. Fleetwood has been doing some digging, and this is what's been uncovered. It's a whole thread of things of clips and
a
whatnot.
second Chinese spy's been caught with DNA.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
They call it DNA now. Yeah, the vials of DNA.
I just reposted that on my X account. If anybody wants to follow, down in Linktree down below, you'll see that. You can go to my X there and follow. You can check that out for yourselves. It's a pretty long thread. But there's all kinds of clips from different news articles that's kind of setting up their position of why they think this is going to be. So
a lot of people are happy also that the Genius Act passed. Does anybody actually know what the Genius Act entirely is?
No, never heard of it.
Okay, it's the competition with China on artificial intelligence. Now, the genius behind the act is he got 3 of his biggest enemies to stop playing TDS and join the government in building an AI infrastructure for the United States.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. They were dragging their heels, and of course, Bezos was pretty upset that Grok managed in 19 days to build a supercomputer while he still hasn't broken ground on his in Texas, has he? Or has he actually started construction on his AI center? Bezos.
Oh, Bezos. You said genius. I missed that.
The Genius Act. It's the creation of an AI infrastructure.
I've never heard of it.
Basically, it's one of the biggest investments of all time that Trump's brought in from 13 countries to basically create a series of supercomputers around the United States that will basically serve as a hub for a new AI-powered internet.
That's nice.
Think of been logging into, when you log into Twitter, lately you'll start to see it on Facebook and even Microsoft Word. You're going to get this thing called an AI assistant popping up.
Yeah, it happens everywhere.
Well, Genius Act is basically going to power that. So you're going to be, right, do I want Microsoft's AI? Do I want Grok? Do I want Bezos's Deep Blue from IBM? They're going to deregulate and demonopolize AI. But at the same time, the government's going to fund or help fund the creation of these AI centers around the US. So think chat GDP for everybody.
Well, that's cool. Nice.
But of course, the whole thing is how's it going to be funded? There's key parts of the...
All right, I'll be right back.
All right, dude. I don't know.
Key parts of the act that hasn't been made publicly yet about how it's going to be paid for and how it's going to make money. What's going to be subscription and what's going to be free and what's going to be public.
Yeah. Hey, what's this about a earthquake?
I forget what it was. I'm looking now.
There was a 5.2 earthquake that hit Iran. This was 6 hours ago.
I can't find anything, but I'll try a different search.
Just look at X. There's quite a bit of people talking about a.
Yeah, but it's not going to give me an article that I can. Here we go. Unusually powerful according to earthquake list. It was near Sinan in Iran. So this was significant because it's 130 kilometers to the west-northwest. It's supposed to be in stable country.
Yeah.
It was fairly shallow. It was only a depth of 10 kilometers. Some are thinking it was an underground nuke. Others, it's too deep. Nobody's drilled that far. But yeah, nobody's got a bunker buster that goes that deep. Nobody's shafted that deep. If they had put a shaft there, people would know. Why would they? No. It's the strongest earthquake in 5 years.
Yeah. Sure it was an earthquake and not a Moab. LOL.
Yeah, that's right. It's the first earthquake in 10 years in the region. A lot of people have said that this is, it's a pretty stable region, but earthquakes that strong without any pre-earthquakes, that's what has got people, that it's, also it's not far from the coast. On Google Maps, it's not far from the coast, but when you zoom in, it's over 100 kilometers and there's mountains in between. So the chance of a tsunami in the Caspian Sea is very short. But it's right on the edge of the when you get to the major desert, right? So it's right on the edge. It's on the edge of the shelf.
Speaking of the edge, did you hear about that strait that they've been talking about? That like if kind of Iran shares the border of this strait where all the fuel comes through. I forget what it's called.
Hormuz.
Do what?
Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, that's it.
The Horn of Iran. Yeah.
They're really worried about the flow of oil if they block that up.
Yeah, because Iran's anti-ship missiles can reach the other side. They can fire across the entire strait. They can shut down over. It'll take a lot of effort to dig them out, but apparently Israel has already started targeting some of the air defenses to further and some of their anti-ship missile systems. So Israel hasn't stopped. Okay, they're systematically pulling the wings off the flies.
Gotcha. I was curious. I hadn't heard too much about it. I heard quite a bit about it. Like one or so days.
Okay. Iran's missiles 8 days ago. Iran was firing over 100 missiles. In the last couple of days, they have been able to manage 20. Apparently, China's given them a whole bunch of reloads. They've now admitted that. Most of them were actually S-400s for to try and shoot down Israeli jets. They claim, of course, to have shot down another F-35. Really, Israel's Air Force is still bombing, so I doubt they shot down anybody. Maybe they got an F-16. Who knows?
Speaking of China, what do you know about the 3 aircraft that were potentially carrying military weapons to Iran from China?
There were one of 3 flights. Yeah, there was 3 flights in the first. There's 3 flights a couple of days ago. That's the one you showed me. There was apparently another one since then. They were registered as flying to Luxembourg, but
yes,
China has routinely done this. They've also done this with Russia as well, flying weapons into Russia. So it's nothing new. China's. What are you going to do? You can't spank them.
Right. I just was curious.
They are weapon shipments.
I've kind of gotten back into watching Monkey Works again.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys have heard him or not. He's on YouTube and Rumble. Monkey Works. And you can look it up. He's pretty cool. He was talking about those flights, and if you look at the flight patterns, they're just there, and then 1 second they're just gone. Like they've either disabled their tracking.
Yeah, they dismantled. They turned
or
off
they were shot
tracking.
down.
Well, military transports can turn off their transponder. Civilian aircraft are not allowed to. But who are you going to sanction? The Chinese Air Force?
Yeah.
Nobody knows who owns these jets. They're owned by a phony aircraft company.
Okay, see, I thought that they were
cargo. They're like Air America.
Okay, I thought they were commercial, but I thought they were using.
No, it's a phony company. It's
right, but I thought they were using like commercial grade airlines to haul weapons.
They are commercial airliners. Yeah, they are commercial airliners, but they have their seats ripped out. Gotcha. And they have a rear cargo door installed.
Gotcha.
And that company is sanctioned but what are you going to do? They're not going to fly to the United States so the US can arrest them.
Right. True.
They're a phony company, and there's nothing much people could do about it other than point it out. And, whatever sanctions come to that company, they'll just change names like all the other things that China does illegally. They just, rearrange the deck chairs.
Right.
Oh, latest news, breaking news, 5 minutes ago. Assassin declares that Tim Walz made him murder Democrats.
Oh, really?
Letter to the FBI. Yeah. He's saying he was urged by Tim Walz to take action. And that he's perfectly justified in defending America.
Wow.
Hey, can we file that under confession?
We should.
We're stop saying alleged assassin now.
Something, because that's got to warrant some kind of investigation or something.
Yeah, but I think Timmy's gonna say, I only meant protests.
Yeah. He's a loser.
And then he's gonna say, you're gonna prove they intended violence. Remember, man, liberals play their word games. They love their word games. They want to show how clever they are with their silly word games.
Yeah. Hey, so do you guys like James O'Keefe, correct? He's a
pretty
good dude.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's pretty good.
Apparently he caught a U.S. State Department employee, a visa specialist, admitting to helping illegals evade deportation. Don't admit certain truth. Don't tell them what you did, and just pretty much F Americans and F Israel. That's what it was quoted and saying. Here, I'm gonna pull up the video. We can
These people should be given a weekend in Venezuela.
It's a long video. And I'm not gonna play all of it, but we'll just kind of. If it doesn't sound good, I'll pull it down. But
Does that remind you that I work at the State Department or anything like that? I work for the Office of the Legal Advisor.
Okay.
Visa adjudications, basically.
Uh-huh.
So issuances and refusals.
Sometimes I do say it to cab drivers that are from like Hispanic descent.
Yeah.
I'm like, don't talk to the police, you know. I'm just saying, like, don't admit the truth. If you want a loophole, keep your mouth shut.
Uh-huh.
The one group of people that I'm not a huge fan of, Yemeni people.
Really?
I hate them with a passion.
Oh.
Such awful people
Yeah.
In the application process.
In the application process.
They are
They're
the
not
most
easy to deal
conniving
with.
group of folks next
Yeah.
to Indians,
Uh-huh.
Bangladeshi people. A lot of the State Department people, terrible Jewish people too.
He's such a great. Of course, he's an American.
Yeah.
He said the quiet part out loud.
right, dude, for
Look.
real, like that's crazy. All right, we'll keep
We
going.
know there's bigotry amongst Islam. Okay, we know they won't talk about the class system they have. You know,
Oh, big time.
They have a
Big
whole
time.
they have a whole book about how to be a racist with all their coded language.
Yeah.
Arslan, tell us you're racist without telling us you're racist.
Yeah, he's not using the coded language. He's just saying it out loud.
Well, it's because he's on a date and he thinks that the person's interested and he wants to show off and be that he's cool. But what he's really doing is kind of funny.
I'm not going to allow that.
It's just
anymore.
showing
We're going to create our own canary mission.
Yeah.
We'll fight fire with fire.
Yeah. How do you feel about it? I don't like
I would love for him to be dragged out of the building with his hair plugs. I
Yeah.
would love that. And lynched on the street.
Yeah.
Arslan Akhtar, a visa specialist.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Unfortunately, there's far too many of these people.
oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
So
I was in Richmond, Virginia not too long ago, and there was graffiti all over buildings that
yeah, of course,
that was
yeah.
like kill Elon and all this, that, and the other. And
Yeah.
it's like, dang, man, like, geez. I don't get
Well, the
it.
problem is, these are the same people who run around saying how the WNBA are going to be paid the same as the NBA. But the WNBA has never made a profit. Okay, they're about to lose. They pretty much were propped up by USAID. Okay, they claim they're getting sellout crowds, which is not true. They've faked the numbers for so long. Investors are growing impatient. You know, this is the problem. The left have faked popularity for so long, and now without US aid, you see what happens with the protests, right? Day 3, the people aren't turning out because they all clock off at the same time, right? Anime night, they're talking about their $200 a day, and since the money runs out, they don't come back. You know, day 3, where only the hardcore are left. You know, the ones with the Mexican flags. You know, the people are saying, oh, we hate the United States. Say, okay, go live in Mexico. No, we hate it there too.
But that's crazy, man.
Yeah, without US, look, I didn't think it would be that quick, that some of these protests would die out very quickly or go on the road. But, people keep screeching Nazi. Well, wait a minute. What was the terror tactics of the Nazi? Oh, yeah, the Nuremberg rally. 100,000 paid actors. And then they went around the countryside making it look like they had 100,000 in every city when it was just the same 100,000 going around, being paid off with a loan from Switzerland. If it wasn't for the money that Roosevelt loaned to Germany, 20 million, there wouldn't have been no rally, Nuremberg rally. There would have been no Night of the Long Knives. Had the French not retreated from the Ruhr Valley, there would have been no war. We're learning more and more that the left engineer chaos to create war.
Oh, yeah, they are, of course.
But without US aid, it falls apart very quickly because you ain't got that $200 a day to bail people out, right? You're running out of money very quickly. And Bezos and all these others, they're not going to, you got the Walmart heiress, for Christ's sake. That's how desperate they are now for funding, because they're turning to Walmart. Now, Walmart's done this before. They funded Newsom in California because he was destroying all their competition.
Yeah. Hey, is Trump really considering using nuclear weapons against Iran nuclear sites?
He said that tactical weapons are included in the scenario. But if you go back to Obama and Biden, you'll see that every war plan has a tactical weapon option. This is normal, folks. Nothing new. That every scenario has to include the use of tactical weapons, because what happens if, say, they take a bunker buster? Let's say they took a bunker buster, right? They hit a bunker, and that bunker did have a nuclear weapon, and that nuclear weapon went off. Somebody's they're not going to turn around and say, was that you, or was that me, or was that Iran? They're just going to say, you dropped the bomb, nuclear went off, we're going to bomb you now. We're going to retaliate. So they have to consider every option. What happens if Iran has, or say Pakistan sends launches its nuke against Israel? They have to, a lot of people don't understand how fucked up world politics are. Is that people who are basically out there, right? Everybody's pretending to be your friend until they're not, Like Pakistan's supposed to be your ally, and yet, they're openly courting Chinese military to come and help them with India, Or Turkey and Israel. They're doing business deals while at the same time Turkey's arming Hamas. It's like Turkey and Saudi Arabia funding the Palestinians in the West Bank, while at the same time pressuring Israeli companies to move to Saudi Arabia. This is
oh dang. Hey, you know what also registers a 5 on the Richter scale for an earthquake?
A small tactical nuclear
device.
Yeah.
What just happened a couple hours ago in Iran? 5.
But they tend not to be 10 kilometers underground.
Do what?
They tend not to be 10 kilometers underground. Unless, of course, this was a nuclear bunker that was destroyed.
It could be. Bunker buster.
That's what I'm saying. They have to consider the option that when you use a bunker buster, that the explosives is sufficient force. Okay, normal explosives usually aren't sufficient to set off a nuke because there isn't enough force in it, right? Yeah. But we're talking about one of the world's largest bombs. We're talking about a $13 million bomb, okay? And it's not small, okay? You're dropping something the size of a school bus on somebody's head.
Yeah.
You ain't walking away from it and saying, yeah, that's your best shot.
That sucks.
But how would you like to be the fourth in command in Iran right now, and you suddenly get a phone call saying, "You're the boss."
Yeah, no thanks.
What? Well, the command bunker just got wiped out. The second in command just got wiped out. Your immediate boss got wiped out. Where's the Ayatollah? Crapping his pants somewhere underground. And you're looking out the window and going, "Why is the sun rising? Why is the sun rising in the west?"
Yeah, I saw a clip on Facebook or something about somebody broke down like the way bunker busters are set out and how they're used and stuff.
Basically, they use mass, momentum, and shape, as well as a series of explosive charges to basically break through multi-story concrete facilities. Whereas if they were used on the mountain, it would be moving too slow to actually penetrate deep enough. So what they're thinking is that it's either going to be a multi-stage attack, or they're going to find a weak spot nearby and basically collapse the complex. So one of the reasons why it's alleged that Trump is giving them time is so that planners can come up with a scenario in which a bunker buster will be useful. Otherwise, it's not one, but two. Don't forget, they're not dropping one, they're dropping two bombs, right? They're putting the B-2 at risk because Russian satellites are watching over Iran. They want to basically see if they can shoot one down, because it'd be a huge PR win. Because don't forget, look what happened with Clinton in Yugoslavia. They had to call it quickly to an end because they started being able to shoot down the jets.
Yeah. Man, it's been a long day.
So, yeah, even though there's still riots are breaking out, I think they're starting to talk about what they're going to do in California, how they're going to, Gavin Newsom's polls are in the toilet right now. They're saying that
they're not. They're not just in the toilet. They're past that. They're in the landfill somewhere over in.
No, they're in the
landfill somewhere.
Yeah, they're in the sewage.
Yeah.
Right? They're in the sewage.
Yeah.
But
I feel like.
Sorry.
I feel like the only way to peacefully stop all this is to lawfully have Netanyahu removed from office.
No, I think that would be a mistake.
Is he the problem?
No.
Yes, because the reason why Benjamin Netanyahu, he's like, nah, I'm not gonna go through the peace deal, the peace negotiations and everything. When Trump was on the podium saying, yes, we're looking into all of that and everything, and so Benjamin Netanyahu is the problem, because this guy has been he's been leader for over, I think, way before I was born.
Netanyahu's been in and out of office for 28 years now. I forget which. Look, what you got to understand, okay, is Iran promised to destroy Israel, okay? And Israel could not get to Iran's nuclear program. For years, they've been assassinating. For the last 20 years, they've been assassinating scientists and trying to stop them. But Russia and China keep training more and keep giving them more technology. But then Iran was building up all its proxies, okay? Netanyahu didn't create Hezbollah and Hamas and all this, okay? They created organizations within them, yes, to take them down from the inside, to wear them out, to basically create factional infighting. Okay, the Middle East is so complicated. You have like a dozen factions that people don't know, or the names are meaningless to them. But these factions have been fighting for 6,000 years. And Netanyahu decided he'll pluck the wings off the flies. First, he blew up the leadership of Hezbollah and set Hamas against themselves, separated Hamas from the Palestinians, made a deal on the West Bank, and left Gaza alone. He's been dividing and conquering now for 28 years, all leading to this point to make sure Iran cannot carry out his plans, because he says this isn't like North Korea, who plans to use nuclear blackmail. They plan to use a nuclear weapon. Whereas North Korea, yes, this is what people forget about WMDs. They do exist. And Iraq did have chemical weapons, but there were lies told. Even Scott Ritter is now lying about his 1998 report. This is ridiculous. But you go back to North Korea, they got and admitted to and have exploded nuclear weapons. Now, the only reason why North Korea hasn't used them is because they're using them as nuclear blackmail to extort Western aid, right? You give us aid, we won't use our nuclear weapons. Whereas Iran refused the offer, okay? They offered the Iran deal. Well, same time as North Korea. You can have your own bombs, but you don't assemble them, and we'll pay you, right? It didn't work. So Netanyahu has carried out Operation Rising Lion, which has been 28 years putting into place so that it could take out the regime if they develop nuclear weapons. In the world of intelligence, you're never going to get the truth now. You're never going to learn. How many people today know about the Nazi or the Japanese nuclear program in World War II? Well, my father lived through World War II, and he never heard of the nuclear program until he saw a documentary on it in the 90s. Secrets and lies are pretty much the tradecraft of governments, and they're not going to tell us the truth. And if you think Netanyahu's the problem, well, he's only just one of 12 players in the Middle East, okay?
Yeah. Hey, so you're talking about truth and whatnot, but what's the deal with Tulsi Gabbard coming out saying that there's no evidence that Iran is building a nuclear weapon?
Well, she's going off the surface level intelligence because she cannot open anything black, okay? She cannot admit that they have evidence. When you're trapped...
Why can't she? She's the director of national intelligence.
Yeah, but there's certain things that are just not done. There's certain secrets that are not just exposed.
Trump called her out and said that she was wrong today.
Yeah, because the NSA has said it's a matter of assembly. It's not the matter of do they have nuclear weapons. It's a matter of if they're going to assemble them.
Yeah.
Because they're looking at the training of people from all around the world. China's not just training Iranians. They're training people from all around the world in nuclear technologies. China wants to destabilize the world. Why? Because when the world gets destabilization, the poorest people no longer care about politics. They'll just follow who's got the biggest gun. Who's going to protect them? The whole idea of destabilizing the Middle East by China is so that the US cannot protect Taiwan because they're fighting a war in. That's why China's helping prolong the war in Ukraine. This is why China is helping prolong the war in the Middle East. This is why they're stirring trouble in the Horn of Africa. This is why there's trouble between Pakistan and India. This is why you have North Korea talking about liberating South Korea any day now. China is stirring the pot because nobody allegedly, can invade China. And even if they tried, China's got 5 armies, each the size of the United States Army. And yet Chinese equipment's crap. But allegedly, quantity has a quality of its own.
He called her out. He called her out again. It was the second time this week. Yeah. Yes. I didn't know the second time.
Yeah. Again, Tulsi is going off public information because she doesn't want to get into a spat with her legal department, which will sanction her and her so-called global experts who would sanction her. Because there's unwritten rules within government that political appointees only have so much power over the administration of the organization, not the actual what they can disclose. Declassification is a process. And the CIA doesn't want to admit what it knows about the Iran nuclear program. Plus, even if they do reveal it, you're going to have an immediate left-right divide. You're going to have people who immediately deny whatever the CIA say, or the NSA, or whoever discloses Iran's program. Again, this is not like Iraq, where Iraq was relying on foreign technology and a small reactor. How many reactors has Iran got that are active before the bombing? There were 3. One of them is a plutonium reactor. That means they can enrich uranium. You can only make plutonium by enriching uranium. So they have a primary and a secondary reactor. They have an enrichment program. It's not a matter of if they have a bomb. It's a matter of whether or not they are willing to assemble one.
Yeah.
I remember Pakistan denied they had a bomb. India denied they had a bomb. North Korea denied they had a bomb. The only reason why they're going after Iran is because they can. And if it wasn't for Operation Rising Lion, they wouldn't be able to, because Iran would have its proxies, the Yemeni and the Houthis and Hamas and others all attacking Israel simultaneously. But they can't, because Israel's been plucking their wings for the last 2 years. And if Israel was willing to destabilize the Middle East, Saudi Arabia wouldn't be happy. Nor would Turkey. They're really happy right now. But a lot of pro-Iranians are saying, the US has to act cautiously because they're the most pro-Western nation. And I'm thinking, what youth program have you been watching for the last 2 years? Because I have not seen any evidence that Iranians are pro-Western.
Yeah.
Now, if they were talking to Iranians in America, yes. But they're not able to return to Iran. And even if they did, all that would happen to them is they're arrested by it, because the government's made up of 30,000 mullahs who make up the majority of public decision-making. They control the military. The military is full of poor people who will follow the paycheck. People forget, Alexander conquered Persia because he bought off one of their generals. This is not new. Most wars, you look at victories and you go, there was definitely some payoffs there. Look at Iraq. Some of Saddam's top generals turned up in Germany.
Gotcha. Hey, Labe, while you were gone, we discussed a few topics about the James O'Keefe Media found he was somebody that worked with the State Department on issuing visas. And he was discussing how to evade detention. Keep
ICE.
Yeah.
There's
a few other things we talked about. There was an earthquake. We found out that apparently a miniature or a tactical nuke replicates a 5 on the Richter scale. So people are speculating, was that an actual earthquake or
in Iran.
yeah.
Yeah, I heard about that. I'm very leery. I'm going to blame the U.S. Air Force until someone proves me wrong.
Gotcha.
I think it was a HARP. I think it was HARP was doing something to make it look like they had something, so we had an excuse. I mean, I look at all this stuff. I mean, the more I've learned about the nonsense the U.S. government has pulled over the last 130 years, I get very skeptical of everything. You know, USS Liberty, remember the Maine, Lusitania. I mean, it's Pearl Harbor, the things. Now it could be. It could have been they put one of these things together underground and blew it and made sure that everything worked, right? Because there's been a lot of intelligence that has said that they have had the parts for years.
Yes,
but just never put one together.
Yeah, you can't have it if you can't have a nuclear weapons program without plutonium. And if you got plutonium, there's only one use for it.
But I'm also now I wouldn't have previously been in this camp, but I'm quite firmly in this camp of what gives the U.S. the right to decide who gets to have a nuclear weapon, who doesn't. So
yeah,
that makes us the police force of the world, which I don't want to be the police force of the world. I'd rather be trading with the world. I'd rather be one big community trying to reach out into the stars and stop fighting over the dust at our feet that we've been fighting over for at least 6,000 years, if not longer.
But you've got to remember that the people who rule the world believe in prophecies and manifest destiny, and they don't want humanity to go to the stars. They
want to go, right? They want to go and blow the planet up on their way out and say, "So long, suckers." But
that too, but. Right. Well, basically, they don't want humanity to have a future. They want only themselves to have that future.
Right. Be leery of anyone who believes they should be in charge.
Yeah.
And yes. So
especially those who talk about I'm for the people, comrade. Yeah, you're the first one to put the boot on the
neck. They put me in power, then I'm no longer for the people. I'm just for the
Yeah. Hey, Orla Greg's in the house. What's up, man?
Hi, Orla Greg. Yeah, sorry, Orla Greg.
But we'll
biggest lie.
Go ahead.
One of the biggest lies, however, and I'm not sure if you missed it, was actually the whole reason for World War II in the first place.
Yeah,
that was all about the fact that Germany had a greater scientific and technical achievement that has still been unmatched. Okay, we know about the Glockenspiel. What's it called? The German bell.
Yeah,
we know.
Well, it's just a Glock. Yeah. Well, Glock is bell for German, but yeah.
But we all know they made an anti-gravity device. We know it hums. We know it gives off vibrations that can cause ear damage and all sorts of other neurological disorders. And for the last 75 years, they've been coming up with all sorts of excuses. But we know they're testing it, right? We know they're trying to work out the bugs. We know they're trying to work out how to make it work without causing all these side effects.
Yeah.
This is the so-called, people with this inner ear disorder all over southern America. We know
that was crazy.
It's always
is that related to
flying over.
Is that related to Panama syndrome, or is that something different?
No, I think they've got several test sites all around, and
because that was the thing with was it Panama syndrome or something?
I think so.
People were would feel ill, and there'd be nothing, but it wouldn't be like one or two people; it'd be like a whole group.
Yeah,
but again, they could be testing the 5G weapons they've got. They've got things where they can hit you with ultrasonic vibrations, and you'll just crap yourself and not even understand.
They're testing different stuff. But the main test site at Area 51 was from, I think, 1958 to 1992, testing the German Bell. And since then, I think they've moved it to the Jet Propulsion Lab in the new one that they built recently. They shut it down. They shut down in the 90s, and they've reopened.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
But every time you hear the US government or people talk about alien technology, I remind you, in 1948, the Alien Act was about Nazi Germany. They didn't want to say the word Nazi Germany. The Alien Technologies Act was to suppress from publication all technologies from Nazi Germany, and out of that act came the companies Pfizer and many others. Nestle, Pfizer, they redistribute. This is where the whole redistribution of wealth comes from, the divvying up of Nazi Germany's technologies. Giving credit to people who'd never invented anything in their life with all these sudden inventions.
Yeah.
And making them billionaires in the process. Which I don't get why the government is in the business of making billionaires, but lately some of them have been falling on their face because they've got no business acumen, right? They're so used to having everything handed to them. But do you think the Chinese economy will collapse? I'm going to bridge to sell you because China can always revert to slavery. Oh, wait, they already have. Which is why they think they can't collapse. It's the same as South Korea. Isn't it amazing that both North and South Korea are both dystopias at the extreme opposite of each other?
Yeah, pretty much.
So when do you think we're going to go hot, and when do you think it's going to be an all-out just war?
No, I think in 2 weeks' time, Trump's plan will unfold itself, and we'll find out what exactly happened. And he will basically either, we see, as he said, Europe wants to prolong the war, Iran's going to drag its heels, but as long as there's hope for diplomacy, he's not going to do anything. And I think in 2 weeks' time, they're going to say, Trump caved in, Trump didn't pull the trigger, The same people who said Trump shouldn't bomb Iran is now going to turn around and say he caved in.
Right.
See, he can't be trusted. That's what they're doing, man. Every time they're going to flip-flop all the way through to the end to the midterms and say, look at all Trump's failures. But Trump doesn't take a hard position. His position is, what is the best outcome I can achieve? And if I'm over here and the rest of the world's going over here, I'm going to race ahead of them, right? Just cut across in front of them. He's going to pivot. It's the same with Trump tariffs. If you think running on Trump tariffs as a failure is going to win you midterm elections, well, isn't the tariffs actually now working out to be offset by the reduction in fuel and the reduction in transport costs?
I don't know. Let's see.
And the reduction in shipping costs, because Chinese shipping and all these, and plus look at all these garbage goods that people buy at Walmart. How much,
Well, speaking of Walmart, they lost. Was it this past week or was it before?
Yeah, they lost some money now.
Because one of the heirs, I forget her name, she was supporting all of the stuff last Saturday.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she was one of the biggest public funders of it.
I said before.
No Kings
nice.
movement.
This is the first time in a long time that Walmart's lost money.
Yeah, I mean that was like last week, and their sales went quite a bit down.
See, then margins are like ridiculous. They're like 7% or something, and they're 25% reduction in sales, which is like huge because that's loss-making territory.
Huge.
Yeah, they lost a little bit. It looks like their stock went down a little bit, and then it went back up. So.
Yeah, that's because they told Sydney to STFU and cut out the nonsense.
Yeah.
Pam Bondi's trending.
Is she finally arresting somebody?
No.
I don't.
Federal judges ordered AOC and Ilhan Omar to repay the money they stole from a legal student loan forgiveness program. They used their position to take advantage of a program they knew would get struck down by the court, said Honorable Joseph Barron. In the 8 days it took to be ruled unlawful, these two managed to grab more than $100,000 each. They should be facing criminal charges. Pam Bondi needs to do her job.
Yeah.
Critics want Pam Bondi investigated for.
Get her out, dude. She's never been a good pick. She should have never been part of Trump's cabinet.
Yeah. They want to investigate it because she has failed to carry out any of her promises other than a token amount of arrests over the anti-immigration raids. She has,
and there is low-hanging fruit that they could have arrested
easy.
people by now.
Oh, yeah.
But she has got a case against El Macho, which 6 hours ago got him 30 years in prison.
All right. Well, that's a start.
So she's done something, but I'm saying these are low-hanging fruit, okay? These are like, what's the cases? 385 people connected to the anti-ICE organization. Easy arrest, okay? Junior first year. Kamala Harris could have prosecuted those cases and won, right? It was easy peasy. Same with drug kingpin. Yes, a large sophisticated case, but it's not Pam Bondi's case. You know, it wasn't hers alone. It wasn't the case that she promised us.
Yeah, dude, she needs to go. There's all types of people calling for it online.
Yeah. She needs to go because basically she has ignored the low-hanging fruit, the unredacted names on the Epstein list. Just bring us the unredacted names in. Okay, if Trump, there were 3 aircraft. Trump was on aircraft 2. That aircraft never flew to Epstein's Island, and he was only on it once, and he cancelled all engagements with Epstein since. You're forgetting but they're going after Trump because that's funded by Bill Gates' PR firm, because Bill Gates was on the flight that went to the island. So was Biden and Biden's brother,
Yeah.
Okay, the other prosecution I could find on Pam Bondi is Kilmer, the Maryland dad, who the news still insists was wrongfully deported. They'll go to their graves saying wrongful deportation because that's what political animals do. You know, they don't believe in shaping their opinions to facts. They believe shaping everything to their narratives.
Well, their narratives is their reality. So if they go against the narratives, they go against reality.
So I said they believe in manifest destiny. Which goes back to the who era, where they believe that they can shape reality. If you tell a lie long enough, people believe it, and you shape reality. Like Jesus was black. You get now enough black. Now the black community really believes Jesus was black. You know, you tell enough lies, and they'll believe it. You know, and they'll believe it to their graves because it's in their selfish interest.
Jesse Water breaks 1 hour ago. Trump sends major warning to Iran, says anything could happen in the next 2 weeks. Trump is now in control of the timeline, not Netanyahu.
Yeah, I'll believe that when he tells Netanyahu to go F himself. For 24 years, he's been saying we need to bomb Iran. So,
who?
Netanyahu.
And he's got his look. You love or like him or hate him, he has gotten his way. And that's what politics is. It's how to get your way. He firmly believes that Iran is a threat. And Iran has played into that by, Iran hasn't turned around and been nice, Mr. Nice Guy in the Middle East, okay? They've funded wars, okay? They destroyed Lebanon. They destroyed Syria. They haven't been exactly endearing to the United States for the last decade.
Right.
Okay, the only reason why they got played nice to Obama was for money. And as soon as they got it, they funded more terrorism. And armed the Houthis. How many ships have the Houthis sunk with Iranian missiles? So Netanyahu, who may be a warmonger, but he's doing it because he's surrounded by warmongers, and they're not responding to him. He's responding to them, okay? He's not Johnny. He is still Johnny come lately, okay?
Well, you've got the warmongers in Gaza. You've got them in, they took out
Turkey,
Syria,
Gaza, Syria.
and
We've
then
got 'em. We've got
we
whole
put
factions.
Al Qaeda in charge because they're
Yeah.
nice and friendly.
And that
Jordan was
Obama.
not. Jordan
Yeah.
was not. And then Iraq
Jordan's
was.
been
We took care of
very
that.
peaceful.
Yeah.
at
Well, they've
scale.
been a pro-Western government. I think it's a monarchy, right? If I remember
Yes.
correctly.
Yeah,
That
it's a limited monarchy. Yes.
Right, that the alphabet agencies have not been able to overthrow. I
They
don't
actually
know.
believe that Israel is propping up the monarchy, but
Yeah, I don't know how much oil do they have in Jordan? Much or not much?
very little.
Yeah, that's why.
Not much.
That's
But-
why.
They're not rich, but they're not poor. They're
Right.
not a threat to Saudi
They're
Arabia.
kind of a middle-class
dominance
country.
in that region. Then and if Saudi Arabia wanted to attack Syria, Jordan would let them. Jordan's been Jordan's like the Thailand of the Middle East. Okay, they've been able to maneuver themselves into a position where nobody wants to get rid of them because they can get their way without get cheaper. They don't have to get rid of them. It's cheaper, because Jordan will roll over and let you play with their belly.
Right. Well, they have influence if they need it, but they don't cause a stink. They don't get uppity, and they don't get anybody's way.
No. And that's what small countries do.
And that's what countries should be like. We shouldn't be like, oh my God, I got to conquer the world because, I'm a bigger jackass than you. Right. Who's going to stop me?
Yeah. And it's like every jackass who posts about flat earths. They don't believe it. They're just big jackasses, right?
Well, some of them don't believe it. I think some people do believe it. Well, it's like and I've said this multiple times on this podcast and my old podcast. I came across a flat earth video, I don't know how many years ago, early days of YouTube. Yeah. And just by the attitude that I could see, I was like, these guys are just making stuff up and being goofy, right?
Yeah.
And then like 3 years later, I come across a whole movement of people that seem to really believe it. And they've invented the ice wall
I'm not
and
talking
everything.
about stupid people. Yeah. Like I said, you get enough idiots and they'll believe it, right? You tell enough lies and the idiots will believe it. That's true. But I firmly believe, and I forget who said it, whether it was Carlin or someone else, as a side joke, they said things aren't really as bad as you think they are, but the media will never tell you that because good news doesn't sell.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know if you remember this, David, because it was mostly in the States, but I want to say it was in the 90s. There was a channel there was a news channel that's what they did. They wanted to do the positive news. And I don't think they lasted 6 months.
Yeah.
It was all the good news. It was all the good things happening in the world. People who were helping their neighbors and people who overcame adversity and, beat cancer and, somebody who stopped at a car wreck and pulled 3 people out of a burning car, that kind of stuff. And it didn't sell. And they were out of business in 6 months. And what manner of commentary on humans in general is that? Where we'd rather see dismembered bodies than hear about someone who was nice to their neighbor, bought them groceries because they're out of work.
Yeah.
And that's just that is a commentary on humanity in general, right? That is cross-cultural, cross-ethnic, everything that we don't want to hear that. That's just sad.
For centuries, humans have searched for ways to extend life, such as the Philosopher's Stone and eating less and basically only eating certain animals, etc. But how can we live longer while...
Oh, no. He just went robot.
They got him.
Oh. See, he was going to give us some good news. And then...
Yep, they got him. They came over and they kicked his door down and cut his internet off. They got him.
The man said, no, bitch, not today.
Oh, my gosh. Poor David. Poor David. I don't know what else to talk about, which stinks because we've got a lot of people watching because I've been tagging a whole bunch of Iran and stuff in my tweets promoting
I mean,
that
we've
we're live.
talked about, when it comes to Iran, we had a pro-Western government. See, here's the thing: when your budget depends on finding boogeymen, you're going to find them, even if you have to create them. And I want to say that, this is my critique of history here. In the 50s, we had the Korean War going on. Well, for the first part of the decade, right?
Yeah.
We were trying to rebuild Europe. China was pretty much nothing. Japan was flattened. We were rebuilding different places. Oh, here he's coming back again. Hey, welcome back. And I think that's when...
Does it get you?
I don't know, was the CIA in the 50s or was that in the 60s? But that's when they started
CIA was 58.
overthrowing
The OSS,
governments, right? So we start in Iran, we start in other places.
Actually, who's the first government we overthrew? The Italians,
yeah.
Oh, nice.
So then there's a part of me that thinks that Kennedy got wind of something. I think Eisenhower did too, and Eisenhower said,
"No,
okay, I'm out of here."
Eisenhower told Kennedy something on the side, and Kennedy asked Helms because he thought Helms was a good friend.
Right, and Eisenhower couldn't say it directly, so he did a wink, wink, nudge, nudge on his farewell speech.
And Kennedy.
And then we get
whether Iran sought by the military-industrial complex.
Exactly, and it's the technocrat. What did he say? The
technocrats. Yeah,
that is controlling the military-industrial complex.
Yeah,
and
I encourage everybody to watch that
Nixon
part of the
was
speech.
Influenced by that.
Yeah, Nixon.
Kennedy knew something.
Yeah,
he
Nixon
was not going to go along with
questions
stuff
about Kennedy's assassination.
Correct.
And,
well, that was later.
Instantly, he went from being a darling of the GOP to public enemy.
Right, but we had world peace in our grasp.
Yeah,
we had it right, but the public didn't know what was really going on, and they still don't want it. I mean, I'm fairly certain if I went to my father, who was in the army for 21 years, and said, "The government you were sworn to defend is the problem in the world, not the problem."
Yeah,
you would not want to.
The government you swore to defend took 100,000 white men, healthy, virile young men, stuck them in Japan for 10 years and made sure they weren't allowed to even meet another woman. And then in the 50s, for 3 decades, over 300,000 white men, healthy, nothing wrong with them, were all exposed to radiation and become infertile. This is the reality. We are being systematically genocided by our own people. They encourage feminism. They encourage marriage breakups because happy families isn't 2 houses with 2 washing machines, with 2 fridges.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and not to mention the Tuskegee experiment and all the other nonsense that they did to black guys, right? But what I'm saying is,
I think the majority, of the time, evil just took whatever was convenient.
But I mean, I don't know for how many years when I was growing up, or even young adult, peace in the Middle East. This was, I mean, it's almost laughable now in many ways because you get this as a question in the beauty pageants and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And it's like we had peace in the Middle East, and in the late 50s, the entities that Eisenhower was trying to warn us about without, I think if he would have been really spelling it out, they would have taken him out live on television. Okay. Had people understood, because I wasn't around in the late 50s, despite what people think.
Yeah.
Had people really understood what he was trying to warn people and actually acted on, we would be in a world we wouldn't even recognize now. There wouldn't be a war anywhere. We would be colonized the moon. We'd be on Mars. We'd be sending ships out everywhere because we'd have cooperation, the likes of which this planet has never ever seen. Right? It would have
in 58. There was a textbook published, a plan for America, I think it was called, and it laid out perfectly a 100-year plan to colonize the moon. We didn't even get past day one.
Right.
Like Nixon, he asked NASA to justify the moon landings. Okay. He later regretted that decision, that he thought that he should have given him more time to come up with a reasonable answer, because since then people have actually explained, that it wasn't the landings per se, it was the perfection of the technology. And had they justified it, okay, it said, this is, Mr. President, this is how we plan to save money. This is how we plan to turn NASA around, stop, because the US budget was massively growing, right? The cost of living was soaring, 70s inflation. They could no longer afford to spend 3% of GDP just on NASA.
All right. But what I'm saying is, and then even in the 90s, and I know there's some general who's talked about this.
Yeah.
Where there were 7 countries they wanted to overthrow and control. And Iran is the last one. I forget what all the 7 were, but it's like, and it's not a recent thing. This is not a 20th century phenomenon, or even late 20th century phenomenon. This
somebody wrote a letter to the U.S. government warning them that this was the plan.
Well, there's the Pike, right? Well, there's the Pike memo, the Pike letter, Albert Pike. There's a lot of debate as to whether he wrote it. It goes potentially depending on which, depending on which line of complaining you want to talk about. It goes back to like the 1840s potentially, right? But at the very least, it's well before World War I. And it talks about 3 world wars and all this stuff. It
talks about the Eugenicist Society.
Right. And it's like they're just going down the line. We have
members. We know now who were members. We know that Truman was a member. We know that H.G. Wells was a member. We know that Orwell was a member. We know that there was a club, in the Oxford Club, who were planning, who planned the British Empire and turning it from a peaceful trade organization into military dominance of the world,
Right. Well, and we've talked about too, but it's one of the ideas that's come up recently about the British Empire, and I've even heard Trem Poole talk about this, where it's like once they realize, especially after the War of what we call the War of 1812, some people call the Second War of Independence, whatever, 1812 to 1814, right? And there was a singer in the I think it was the late 50s, 1814. We took a little trip, but down along with Colonel Jackson, and I can't remember Battle of New Orleans. That's the name of the song.
Yeah, Battle of New Orleans.
So it's like the British figured out that the finances was a way to control it. So the city of London, which is a very small section in the city of London, look it up.
Yeah.
Has its own government and everything else. It's almost like the way Washington D.C. was initially conceived, right? It was supposed to be governed by Congress. It was not supposed to be a self-governing entity.
But reality, the bankers and their lawyers who basically run the show.
But see, this is in part what eventually brought down. I mean, it was more than just the Visigoths and the Goths invasions and stuff of Rome. It's the bankers that eventually.
No, it was the bankers left Rome because that once they had what they did is they basically got Rome in the debt, and after over 400 years of basically running at a loss, eventually Rome had no more gold to dig up, had no more slaves to sell, and had nothing. And they turn around one day and all the leadership is gone, and the church takes over, and then a week later, Rome didn't even know the Visigoths had conquered northern Italy 100 years earlier. This is how isolated Rome had become by the time.
Right. Well, and for a long time, Rome was Rome became a backwater city, right?
They didn't come as murderous conquerors as they were told. The Visigoths wanted their children educated. They wanted peace with Rome. They were trying to stop the constant raids for slaves, or trying to stop the rape and murder of their children in the name of denationalizing the North, right? They wanted to turn Germanica into small states. However,
and this concept we still hear, right?
Yeah.
We're going to free these people from their bondage, that they're not living in bondage. And it's better. What they really need is more education, right? More knowledge, more training, more exposure.
But I think the Visigoths are the only liberators in history who can turn around and say, yeah, they're actually motivated by liberation.
Right. Well, then they left Rome and left Italy and ended up settling in Spain. So
and the
part of
weird thing
southern France.
is they kept the Roman Empire from collapsing even further. They sacrificed Egypt.
Well, the Western
and the
Empire,
Eastern
right?
Empire. They sacrificed too much, though. They didn't realize that Egypt was the source of half their food.
Grain. Oh yeah. The Egyptian grain was very important to the Western Empire in particular.
Yeah.
I mean, by then I think the Eastern Empire had been well established and was
separate. Yeah. But had they not been selfish and came to the aid of the Eastern Empire, the world would have been much different. And of course, this comes down to the Club of Rome, who wanted always to break up large states. Okay, they realized that managing Rome was a disaster. They'll just have the same mistake of Alexander's and other empires before. That eventually you'll have separate states fighting for control, right?
Right.
I think me and Anime Night are about to fall asleep.
Sorry, man.
I'm good. I'm good.
I saw him reach up and like wipe his eyes, and I was like, "Yes, dude, I
but
feel
it's
you,
just
bro."
the same story, different verse.
It's just I had something in my I just want to make sure when
I'm actually exhausted, and we're coming up on the hour and a half. Unless you guys want to keep going, I think I'm gonna roll.
No, I think Lake's the best.
Lake, would you like to see more of this happening nowadays?
Yes,
with the bankers,
absolutely,
yes.
Okay. With Jamie David's great grandfather right there.
Well, not just the bankers, but I mean, this
wasn't just bankers; it was also tax avoiders.
Well, it's what's the best way to put this? It was in many ways, it was a result of the overzealous religious establishment, right? That took the concept of no engraven images before me too far. The concept was not just no engraven images; it's no engraven image before me. In other words, you're worshiping a idol over the living God.
Yeah.
That's what the 10 Commandments were. That's what that commandment's about. And so because a conquering empire had Caesar on the coins, you get the money changers. No one was worshiping Caesar nor the coin. So the whole point was lost. And that you could put the overzealous Zionists in this kind, the Zionist Christians in this category. This is the thing with Ted Cruz. I don't know if you guys talked about this with Ted Cruz and Tucker Carlson this past week.
No, but that was good. That was
right.
Good.
It's here's the thing you won't hear in the pulpits. The Israel that is mentioned scripturally in what Ted Cruz was talking about is not the Israel we have now. Because in the context of the Bible, if we want to really narrow down, you either have grace through the law, Old Testament, the Tanakh, or you have grace through Christ. And that is it. If you are not holding either of those, you are not Israel. Period. I don't care what title you put on your country. You are not the biblical Israel. You are not the ones that talked about if whoever blesses you will be blessed, whoever curses you will be cursed. That is the Israel of Yahweh, not this secular driven, maybe Babylonian Talmud Israel we have now.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you do not have a temple, you do not have a tabernacle, you do not have sacrifice, and they've rejected Christ. So biblically, in that context, because I'm taking Cruz at his word, of, what he's talking about in the biblical context, not the Babylonian Talmud and all this other stuff. The biblical context, that is not the Israel that's being mentioned. And so you can choose to support whomever you want, but there is no biblical imperative for Christians to support the current Israel because they are not following the Tanakh. That's my view on it. If they were following the Tanakh, absolutely. I'd be the first one over there, but they're not. They're following the Babylonian Talmud.
And remember, they deliberately allowed 1 million Muslims into Israel to destroy the Christian population in East Jerusalem.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they sealed their own fate, lost half of the West Bank because of it. But that's the case of biting your own nose off to spite your face.
Right.
Yeah. All right, guys.
But I'm still saying, whether love or hate him, Netanyahu's pulled off probably the greatest military operation in history without pulling off the greatest military operation in history. He's relied on others to do it, but he still set it in motion.
Right.
And whether it's right or wrong, okay, these people are motivated by, remember, you have three major factions all motivated by prophecy, and all of these prophecies all come to the same end, but each thinking they'll be the winner, right?
Right. Well, and if you want to talk prophecy and Revelation 2:9 and 3:9, where it talks about a group of people who are Jews in name only, and synagogue of Satan, and what that meant.
I would say. I'm not saying Netanyahu's a good guy. I'm just saying what motivates him.
Oh no, remember, was it a year ago? There was all that talk about the red heifer and all that other stuff.
Yeah, where'd that go?
Well,
right, and that would have been the reestablishment of the temple.
Yeah.
That would have been. See, that would have been a return to temple
Biblical
Judaism
Israel.
that's in the Old Testament.
See, Christ didn't preach Judaism. Okay, this is what people don't understand. He did not preach Judaism. He never condemned people for eating pork. He never wanted to bring about the death penalty for people who didn't adhere to the Talmud. He opposed those who wanted to.
Well, the Talmud didn't exist when he was around. The Talmud was written 1,000 years later.
I'm talking about I forget what it's called, but what became the Talmud? The laws of Moses. Okay, he did not.
Well, yeah, okay. The Torah.
Yeah, right. Thank you.
First 5 books, Torah.
Yeah.
The Tanakh is the Old Testament as we know it, and the Talmud is, the Torah is the first.
For 350 years, Christianity did not have an Old Testament. They had the Testament of Christ. It wasn't called the Bible. It was called the Testament of Christ.
Yeah, but which I don't understand because it doesn't make sense if you don't have the Old Testament, right? You don't have the prophecies.
That's why they included the Old Testament. But remember, the people who were learning Christ's Testament knew all that stuff. It was later when it was brought to Europe that they needed the Old Testament because we didn't know the history behind it.
They know the context. Context is extremely important. So all the people who
want to remove the Old Testament, no, sorry, you need context.
Yeah. Where do these prophecies come from, and why are they important?
Yeah, and it's the same. Like, why was family lineage important? Well, in the old days, if you were a carpenter, you taught your son to be a carpenter because that is how your family survived. Okay, we took that away and created private schools. But if you look at Christian teaching, they are actually against the state being the teacher.
Yeah. But anyway.
Because if you take your children and give them into the hands of anybody else, they're not your children when they come back.
Yeah. Ain't that the truth? All right. but Appalachian was wanting to wrap this up. So let's.
Yeah, I think we wrap it up at that point, right?
Thank you. I'm sitting here like, oh my gosh. Anyway, yeah, hey, we'll be live. We'll be live in just a couple hours. We're gonna go back. I'm gonna go get some sleep. I'm setting up I just got the stream set up for StreamYard for Coffee and Gaming.
Don't forget to email it out. Yeah,
I will. And as soon as we end here, I'll set up the Rumble.
Gears of War again, or
Yep.
go
Because that was a good game. Dude,
That
we
was
did
a good
Gears
game.
4,
That
man.
was
It
a
was
good
phenomenal.
game. That was awesome.
That's good.
Yes.
Yeah. So we
What time are you starting tomorrow?
7. Oh, we'll
right.
go to 7 to 9, or well, my family won't be here after. Like my family's they're going to a like a some kind of flea market thing, so we might go a little longer. So
All righty.
when the cats are away, the mice will play. So
Yeah, I've got. We're not supposed to get rain for the next couple of days, and I have got to get the yard mowed.
Man,
I've got to do
nice
some
guys
yard work
outside.
too.
It's
So
pretty dark here. If you can't tell the
But-
shadows over
So
me.
I might. Depends what my morning's like, but I might stop in and say howdy. But it'd be about that. It'll be about it. While I'm eating breakfast,
That's
I might.
fine.
That's fine.
That's if it aligns. But
Oh my gosh, like don't tease us. Just show
that's
up.
what I'm
or
saying.
not.
It's a maybe. I don't know. I don't know.
All right. We'll be back
All right,
7
guys.
a.m. Right here at this same location. So you guys set your watches. We'll catch you in a couple hours. You guys have a great night. Bye, David. Pick up Lake's channel.
Anime. Well, you're quoting Kennedy there, right? That's one of his speeches, right?
That is correct.
JFK, yeah. The word secrecy is
It-
repugnant to a free society and open society. Yeah, that's a good one.
Nice.
Another
Yes,
thing
it was.
liberals who say they support JFK forget, right?
Hey, check out all their channels. Just
All right, guys.
look at it. Look at all the
Tomorrow-
links down below.
Bye-bye.
Good day, sir.
Later, dudes.
Good night, Jim Bob.
Hell, I got to go.
Peace out.
Burn in hell, New World Order. Fuck you. Fuck you, New World Order. Fuck you, Bill Gates.
I love you. You gotta do better than that. I love you.
Bye, you do.